All right, here we go again. Buckle up. I realize there's some issue with some people because they play a game where Florida is their residence and they have homes in New York. And however, you have to be careful with that cavalier attitude. I guess Washington State now they're a pretty wealthy state. Uh, Said if our rich people leave, I don't think it's going to be that big, and who cares? Bye. But at a certain point, if enough wealthy people leave, then your businesses start leaving. They are the ones that fund the social safety net. What you have not proven to the world is that you don't have fraud. I think that's your first place before the first place you should go before you raise taxes. Cooking here a little bit. Well, again, let's be realistic about how this all works. And you're just like even saying, I mean, even for the ones that stay, they're going to be, why are you saying that? Socialism doesn't work. It's never worked. The only way it works is the way the United States was running it. So they figure, they're not going to, leave in droves or anything like that. But at a certain point, they might, I guess North Carolina has opened up where that's become some sort of treasured location for people that are relocating out of some of these higher tax locations. Well, the first part is I think she should start by saying we do appreciate these people. I mean, that's really where you should start. Well, again, if you begin to negotiate, maybe you could come up with something. But like I'm saying, the first thing you need to do is prove you don't have fraud. I mean, I think it's pretty bad. I think New York's got a serious fraud problem. I think they've just tip of the iceberg type of thing going on now. They found a few spots where there's fraud. Well, he realizes he has problems. He's trying to raise taxes. It would probably been better years ago because see, Washington State's just starting now. Goodbye. Who needs you? People will leave because of just that statement. So again, I think the first thing you need to do is to prove to your constituency that there is no fraud or minimal fraud. I don't believe I believe it's rampant. Well, that's tax money. I mean, they haven't even got to the point of whether the contracts are being fulfilled. That's the next place. They're just kind of looking at benefit fraud. I guess that's part of it. I guess that would be no, because it's individual, right? Versus larger contract, where they get a contract to perform a service versus benefit per. I guess that happened with Karen Bass. That was I think a larger contract. Or they put in per person. I have to look at that. Well, once we fix Medicare, once we fix all these other programs, you're going to have extra money. You might not need it. And your city may not be so attractive to the people that are stealing the money. So I think you should at least thank your taxpayers that are, on the higher side of income that have been funding the safety net to a certain degree and their businesses. I didn't think people would entirely like it in Texas, but there's places like North Carolina creeping up. North Carolina's not a bad place to live year round. So places like Washington State, they're making statements that New York made like 3-4 years ago. And now they're kind of retracting. At least the governor's trying to retract that. I mean, if you keep going, I imagine you're going to try to tax their retirement when they live in another state because they made your money there. I mean, that's really where you're heading because you're not going to stop. You're not going to try to fix the fraud, waste, and abuse. And then you're going to be looking for money somewhere else. There's people that aren't going to cut ties. Some people don't even mind paying it, but at least don't act like they're all criminals when they've been funding the social safety net for years. I particularly believe that our problem now is fraud, waste, and abuse. We might need more money, but we can't get there until we analyze the fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, it's what I'm telling you. It's again what I do all the time. I'm trying to help you not kill yourselves and kill your programs. I do it for both sides of the aisle. This is not political. This is for the people that are affected by it. We're actually on the doorstep of possibly something great because we might be able to find out that we can get more for our money, return the nation back to normalcy. Again, a big problem in the nation is narcotics and narcotics use. Which brings me to my next thing is that we need to. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Oh, we shouldn't arrest addicts. Every liberal city in the world, every liberal state, we shouldn't arrest addicts. No, you shouldn't put them in jail, but you got to do something about the addiction. And although the best case scenario is for them to voluntarily seek counseling and seek rehab, that isn't always going to happen. So at least use the opportunity for a deferment program, but you have to build it the way I was speaking about it for years, and then the way they're doing it in Massachusetts. But he's going to Florida, to California, and other places to try to help them out. That guy Victor and Fresh Start needs to be replicated and enlarged. Well, Again, the money we spend because people are addicted is a phenomenal, including incarcerating on even some life sentences. The investment is worth it. But it ran that cycle too. They said, we don't want to arrest them. And now they're saying, well, it didn't work out. When they legalize everything. So what you do is you arrest them and tell them to get into rehab. If you run the program like Victor, the good boss, or whatever it is, I don't even know if that's his website. I know his name's Victor. It'll work because it includes aftercare and trying to get them jobs and give them a place to live. The smaller we make the addicted community, the smaller we make availability of narcotics, the less people that are going to fall into that pit. We need to examine the existence of the homegrown labs, see if we see an uptick, because that would probably be a good sign that we're getting somewhere. Because it was the reverse that brought it in from Mexico. Now it's a little more technical, I guess, the homegrown labs. Before it was just that Sudafed. As soon as we killed Sudafed, meth came in from Mexico. Their president doesn't give a shit. I told you she was screwy. She's going to tell us that it's our problem because our people use narcotics. She's housing the multimillionaires and billionaires that are willing our people and cursing our people to narcotics. And moving a spycraft operation in the United States to keep it going. The system is a living thing. And if you say money talks and bullshit walks, then they got plenty of that in Narcoland. That's what's happened. So people's minds are owned by the narcos. It's delicious. I started eating potatoes again. Now I'm frying them, which isn't the greatest, but it's not that bad. I don't eat meat or anything. Canola oil, I think, is pretty healthy. At least Florence Henderson made us believe that. So again, I think you're all making mistakes by writing off the people who are funding the social safety net with their businesses and their income. I think a lot of what we're seeing is the effects of narcotics and narco communities. That's what's affecting a lot of the ability to make money, sustain a family. Well, you're going to end up, it's happening, and it's happening. You're going to end up taxing yourselves out of people to pay the tax. So if that happens, you'll be back to square one again. But less people will be putting in at that point. Because you'll have that larger tax, you'll have some people leave, and then you'll end up probably with the same amount of income. Well, the first thing was to appreciate them and then say, look, we think we need a little bit more. Again, the idea of raising something to $15 an hour from 7 something an hour in a couple years versus 5 years or 6 years. Or then in some places, $20 now. Well, because the system doesn't absorb that. And we get unchecked inflation. So again, if Trump's inflation stays in check, it'd be amazing because all the Democratic Party cities and states raised everybody's wages, which causes inflation. But again, he does have a good wage underneath him, and that is a selling point. But I'll tell you what, the propaganda they're using to sink the Iranian conflict would have landed him in jail a mere 20 years ago. No, it's a multi-billion-dollar event when you consider all of the operations. Hate ICE, because this all plays in. Hate ICE, hate Trump. So they're trying to get me angry, I think, because I guess Trump did the IRA thing now. Right, one of my ideas too. Well, he's president, puts it in. That's fine. You don't have to call it Larry accounts. So I'm just happy to see all my stuff moving. It's just Mexico's angering me, not angering. It's just I guess disappointing. They're stringing us along. So they think the president's weak now. Like, oh, what's he going to do? Where's he going to get troops from? He's stuck in Iran. We'll just pull him out of Italy and Spain, and we'll move him to the southern border. And that's what you should do. Stare her down for a month. If she doesn't give, then they go in. Pull the 173rd Airborne, unless you want to put them in Iran first. What's in Spain? I guess there's no ground troops in Spain, or is there? We have a ton of stuff in Europe. We have stuff in Poland, don't we? You got the 101st rotating in there. I used to memorize all of it without even looking it up. They've been moving stuff since Ukraine started. Okay, it's Naval Air Station or Naval Station and Air Base. I mean, it's important, but we could. A moron air base? I think we get rid of the moron air base. Doesn't sound like any place to keep. We do have the 173rd Airborne Brigade. What troops? If we pull everybody out of Europe, what do we got? We got an army to put down narcos in Mexico. 36,000 to 39,000 in Germany alone. 12,000 in Italy. 10,000. Well, we weren't talking about. Did you talk about United Kingdom? I think. We can move them all down the southern border. So let's talk about that extradition. Set up a little tent on the border and put a general in it, just like they did with Saddam. If you want to talk to us, we'll be in this tent. That's what they did at the end of Desert Storm. Yeah, it was. They got us though. Like we were beat. Cause we did. I think we were doing the explosive stuff, and then we went back and we chilled out, and so everybody was chilled. And they never told us that the Iraqis, and like it's weird because this explains, it bothered us. Today's army, it probably wouldn't. So we're sitting there, and we instead undo the LBs, lean up against the track, and get some shade in Iraq, and southern Iraq, and then there's an east-west highway, and we were on the north-south highway that goes underneath the east-west highway. And then this is where they're doing the day they're doing the peace talks. They never told us that anybody was going to be coming by our post area. It was like a clover leaf or whatever. So all of a sudden, we look, and here comes the Iraqi flags, and they're like, I mean, like the ramp from the high there, that was an overpass. But they come not from where we could see. It was like, I think it was some trees or something. So they come from that side. All of a sudden, they appear on the ramp, and we're like in the. Were we in the road or were we in the? Can't remember. I guess we were in the road. It wasn't horrible. We weren't over in the grass or not grass, the dirt or sand, whatever it was. But they come down, and our troops are all chilled out, like Nobody told us they were coming. I think we made a complaint that nobody called us to tell us that they were rolling to the peace talk. Yeah, they did. Had their own LBEs unbuckled, leaning up on a backpack or something. I don't remember. I remember the one guy laying there. I'm like, what? But it was inevitable, the ceasefire. We were prepared to go. We were prepared for the next big battle, which was Basra. They were acting like Basra would be horrible because that's where the Republican Guard got bogged down. But I don't think so. Strange world. This is how crazy the deep state is. They block me from women. I can't get married, but guys in prison for life and death penalty are getting married. That's how crazy the people I worked with were. And they put all these other criminals in. I got one real girlfriend. They wrecked her mind, and then they put people in. I guarantee with the instruction that no woman is to get in my life. I guarantee it. There is no why, all of you. Other than you're all criminals and devils. I'm going to call her sham scam now. It sounds better than sham bum. President Sham Scam of Mexico. Remove her as president. Removed. Whoa. Now we can get 4 of these narcotics issues. It's half the reason people are liberals. We sit around smoking cannabis all day, doing pills. It's part of the brainwashing. So they're talking about Agent Ross, like he's done something wrong by getting on with his life. when when Miss Good is she's probably a multi, she's at least a millionaire. I'm not gonna say I don't have any proof she's a multi. She's the one that caused the whole freaking thing, and she knew it until your lawyers came along and say, "Well, I wouldn't say that. It's not your fault." And, again, her responsibility is only marginal because who in the world would sit there and beep their horn like that? I'd be afraid somebody come out. I mean, she's an idiot. I'd be afraid somebody come out and shoot me. Not a cop, somebody in the community that works night shift. Well, it just shows you how low grade they are. That's their problem. The Dems hire these, or hire. I guess they were getting paid these low grade people. You drive into your neighborhood and blame it on ICE that they're beeping their horn all day. I think they're about to start it up again. That's what it seems like to me. Trying to extort ICE and DHS. I mean, the whole event analysis of the Secret Service defense of that dinner is woulda, shoulda, coulda. I mean, that's the way. I mean, not them. The guy that ran through it. I mean, he wasn't getting anywhere. He got somewhere, but nowhere. Right. The president is out in the open, plenty of places. So this idea where he almost got it to it, he didn't almost get nowhere. But in fact, he's in California. Who knows what they're doing out there? It could be covering up the ability to see him. They may have created him out there. And of course they did. He's absolutely radicalized and insano. In fact, there's more evidence that Biden has some weird pedophile sexual thing going on more than anybody else I've ever seen. It's insane. That's why I try to stay out of real politics. There's political reasons to do things, but most of my reasons are factual reasons. And that benefits the people. Again, the Democrats have not proven to us that their programs are real. They kind of like find it if you can. Again, but they'll say I'm anti-social safety net. I'm a conservative jerk. I'm not. I just want that. I want it to work. I don't want to play games and give the money to warlords in another nation and narcos in another nation. I think it's Russian space lasers, Marge. They're affecting our weather here in Butler. It's the Russian space lasers. Could be actually. Now you can control the weather, I'm sure. It's just a question of how. Oh, it's a mayor. I thought it was a governor in Washington. Socialist mayor's blunt one-word message to fleeing millionaires sparks outrage. We're doomed. Stupid Mayday. Lewinsky. She didn't seem like a bad person. I saw her at least once. I can't remember. I think maybe 2 times. She's a pretty low key person. Right. She came into the independent counsel's office. Thank you. But again, shit happens, you know. It's this whole political blowing everything out of proportion. Where is that at? Istanbul. May Day in Istanbul. Western France. Munich. Athens. It's all propaganda. At the end of the Fox News article, they point out that it's overwhelmingly propaganda because the United States they're saying it they're fighting the United States, all the Mayday people, but yet United States is the only one actually fighting the dictators. Same bullshit, different day. It's just like, we hate all the billionaires, even though and the multimillionaires, even though they're funding our social safety net. I think, that there should be some sort of tax, but not at the level that they keep moving on. Again, the first idea now is to make sure there's no fraud. You're asking for money before you've certified your programs. And you're like glossing over it like it doesn't matter. I can't believe anybody's going to vote for them. Democrats have to be mad. They're defrauding all the programs. But again, they might be some of the people running those programs and getting rich off of it. Was she Seattle mayor?
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if the ones that leave, like, bye.
Those are the people that are funding your programs. I don't get it. I guess they're banking on a Democratic Party president that'll take all the tax dole and throw it at Democratic Party states to be embezzled. If they're hell bent on raising taxes or whatever it is they're going to do in Washington State, you say, we appreciate that you're helping fund these social programs. We appreciate you. But if you need to move on, we're going to have to let you go because we believe this is the right direction. And then you won't have all the others going, what? Bye. You might lose a few more people off of that kind of attitude. But if you say, we appreciate what you've done to help us fund the social safety net, But we think, the way forward is to increase taxation by this amount or whatever it is they're doing. I mean, they haven't even certified one bit that their programs are real. And they're just running around, we're going to take more money. Of course, so that some more people can embezzle it. I'm glad to see that the VA is actually doing something real with these corporations, that the contractors. I mean, when I went in there in Oklahoma, it was a mess, and the doctor was just such an a-hole. He was just trying to disprove everything that I was saying. Like, didn't even listen. Like, what he would do is he would say something and then require me to say it back to him. Like, oh yeah, you're right. But of course, it was probably deep state. They just killed Jonathan Nichols. Yeah, he used that to force the state to move on cannabis. I guarantee it. People were afraid that something would happen to them, just like they did with Jonathan Luna. These are all just piece of shit, spy trained criminals, opening up the way for foreign powers and narcos and sex traffickers, while they arrest the competition of the most favored narcos, the most favored sex traffickers, the most favored fraudsters. So that's what I would do. Because again, if Trump's the one that finds it, and Kash Patel, Trump, Vance, if they're the ones that find it, it's going to discredit your programs. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.